Welcome. My name is Ann Phelan. I am the manager of resources and engagement here at the Perkins Transition Center. We welcome you. All of our program supports all disabilities, and our four-part series was intended to provide content on a topic that we feel is really important. So thanks for joining us today. If you're a professional and you wish to share your location, your agency to share, feel free. Parents, family members, caregivers, kindly share the name of the state you're in and the age of your child. And advocates with disabilities, we're so glad you're here today. Welcome. So first of all, this is a safe space. We're having a content conversation that has some sensitive topic. If you wish to change the name on your profile, because we are recording, you just click on the three dots by your picture and you can rename it to any name you wish. We know that discussing internet safety is really important for all of us because we know that people with disabilities face unique challenges and heightened risks for online challenges that can include vulnerability, exploitation, cybercrime. And we also know that there are instances of online abuse. We have heard about phishing, we've heard about catfishing. We know that some of our family members have been vulnerable and exploited. So today, our guest speaker, Katherine, who's with us for our fourth and final week, will be talking more about this. I want to share on behalf of our team a profound gratitude and thanks for you being here, whether you came just for today or you've been part of this series or the entire series. We want to thank you so much. And so without further ado, Katherine, I'm turning it over to you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Anne and Janine. It's great to be here again. And as Anne said, I'm Katherine McLaughlin, and I'm the lead trainer for Elevatus training. And I've been a sexuality educator for over 30 years. And today we're going to talk about this idea of moving from a friend to a partner, but also adding in that piece about online safety as well. So there's sort of steps that we take to meet people. And then there's things to think about when we're online meeting people as well. So moving from a friend to partner or sweetheart in the age of technology. So what we're going to focus on is we're going to explore how to help people, either your child or someone you're supporting or yourself or your friends, move from a friend to a partner in a helpful, healthy, and safe way. Also, we're going to examine various types of technology and the positives and negatives of technology, and also discuss ways to communicate about the pleasures and the risks of meeting people online, and also around posting on social media and how can we have positive, safe relationships when we're using technology. So to start out, I would love for you to think for a minute about what are the reasons it's difficult to talk with your child, someone you support, or yourself around meeting people, and in particular online, meeting people online, but in general too. Why is it difficult to have these conversations? So if I'll give you a minute to think about that and put your ideas in the chat, that would be wonderful. What makes it difficult to talk about meeting people and in particular online? Give me a minute. Don't know who the people are. Sure, exactly. Yeah. It's hard to know if it's really who they say they are. And so that's a risk that we have online that we might not have face to face. Yeah. Other things that make it difficult for you to talk about it with someone else. Want to respect choice and self-determination, but worried about vulnerability. Yeah, and balancing those two. Negative past experiences. Yeah, so we may have had some negative experiences online, so talking about it can be difficult. Yeah, absolutely. See if I can't decipher meaning and context on text. So yeah. So lots of, we don't get the tone of voice and things like that. So it can be a little confusing and unclear, misleading. There's a lot of fear from individuals, community, that they will not be able to keep themselves safe. So yeah, there's a lot of fear around this too. So it's hard to talk about it because we're feeling really fearful about it as well. May feel judged for their preference. So maybe a particular orientation or something, and they might feel judged if we're talking about some of these topics. Some of the individuals that we serve are either don't have social media or don't have a full understanding of the risks. Yes. And there's a resistance with media training plans as they want their independence. So kind of like, leave me alone. I just want to have some independence and I want to meet people. And when you cannot see someone, it's hard to understand sometimes what's being said. Communication can be difficult without face-to-face contact. Finding the balance of encouraging people to get out and meet new people and also the realistic about the dangers. Yes. And holding both of those things to get at the same time is challenging. We don't want to be freaking out and getting people really nervous, but we want people to know the truth and the reality of online things. And so it's tricky. Yes. So we're going to talk about one, just meeting people in general, and then we'll add in the technology piece. So when I work with people with disabilities, I teach that there's really 3 steps to finding a partner. And I'll talk about each one a little bit, and then we'll talk more about the online piece in the middle of that. But the first thing is really feeling interested in a person, but also thinking about, is this an okay person for me to try to be in a sexual romantic relationship with? So sort of, you might have these feelings for someone, but it might not be okay. And who would it be okay to be with? So we'll talk about that. Then we'll also talk about how can you get to know someone or let them know that you're interested in more than friends as well. And then again, this will be when we're also talking about online. And then the last phase is really about becoming a couple. And once you decide you want to be a couple, what are some things you want to talk about? And some people move through these steps really fast. Some people move faster than the person they're interested in. But it can oftentimes take time to go through these steps. But sometimes people really want to have somebody in their life. And so there's an urgency to it as well. And so helping people slow down, this takes time, growing relationships. And the first thing that I wanted to do too, or the second thing with you all, is to talk about like what makes us attracted to somebody in a sexual romantic way. So you could put these in the chat, like things about how a person looks, their personality, how they make you feel. So that's something you can explore with somebody with a disability or just on your own too. Like what am I finding attractive? And it could be about how they look, their personality, how they make you feel. So any of those things, what makes us attracted to other people in that way? Says, this sounds like my son. I think you're probably assuming like, leave me alone. I want to, yeah. That's what I'm assuming that's referencing. Common interests. Yep. Warm feelings when you're around that person. Yep. What else makes us attracted to people in a sexual romantic way? Think about how they look, their personality, how they make you feel, the person's smell, humor, their looks. Oh, sounds like I gotcha. He wants to meet someone sooner rather than later. Yes. Right. What else are we attracted to in people? Being part of the same community, having emotional needs met by the person, intelligence, a connection on various levels. So physical, emotional, humor, how they affect my self-esteem in a good way, intellectual and emotional match, same interests. Great. So what we can do is talk about what are all the things that make us attracted to people. And then the next thing we can do with this list is just explore actually, I'm going to go back a minute, just explore a little bit around which ones of these qualities do we want for only sexual romantic relationships, and which qualities would we like for friends as well as a sexual romantic relationship. And I think that's the piece that we want to show too, is that lots of times the same things we want in a sexual romantic relationship are the same things we want in a friend as well. So it's often called friendship plus more. And the plus more is more of that sexual feelings or the attraction or wanting to have a different kind of relationship. But a lot of these we could say are probably for both, like common interests, maybe warm feelings. Maybe smell doesn't matter quite as much for a friendship, but we probably want our friends to smell nice too. But humor, how they look, maybe not as important. So I think it's just that friendship plus more, and just highlighting that a lot of the qualities we want in our friends is exactly what we would want in a partner as well. All right, so the first step is feeling interested, like you are attracted to someone in that way, and asking like, why would you decide not to act on those feelings? So what makes you not, you find someone that you're attracted to, what makes you not act on those feelings or let them know how you feel? What stops you? Scared of being turned down? Sure, yeah, our own um, anxiety, embarrassment, our own personal feelings can hold us back. They might be in another relationship, so that might, okay. Fear of lots of things, lack the skills and experience, so I just don't even know how to begin. Self-esteem, don't feel worth it. No one would be attracted to me. Feelings of fear of rejection, yes. If I put myself out there and they say no, that's going to really hurt. Yeah, so lots of reasons. And we also want to explore some of these different, so mismatch with societal cultural norms. Okay, yep. So that might be an example of like age or something like that too. So the cultural norm or the rule is that you have to be a certain age to be in a sexual romantic relationship. And so the person might be too young. So that might be a reason that you don't. Or the person might be already in a relationship, and that was mentioned too. Or maybe it could be two people of the same sex can be in a sexual romantic relationship. Um, and I will often say and give lots of factual information like, yes, in every state in this country, uh, people of the same sex can get married. So you can be in a sexual romantic relationship with someone of the same sex as you. Someone who said they're not interested. And again, that's that piece around boundaries and consent. And we talked about this last week around healthy boundaries too. Um, and so if someone says they're not interested, we need to respect that and move on. And that's that rejection piece that can be very difficult. And I'm always saying, and I think we talked about this last week as well, um, there's nothing wrong with you if somebody's not interested. It's just not a good fit. And we're talking about these sort of like creating some kind of activity around puzzle pieces. And, some puzzle pieces fit together and others don't. But when we look at them on their own, there's nothing wrong with either of these. It's just not a good fit. So someone who's not interested in respecting that boundary, a paid support person or a teacher. I mean, people can have crushes on their teachers, and just knowing that that wouldn't be a good person. They're not allowed to be in a sexual romantic relationship with you. They have power over you. And then checking your state laws around the age of consent as well. And so that's one where we really want to make sure you know the laws in your state and inform either your child or someone you're supporting, or for yourself, what's the age of consent? Because somebody could be underage and say yes, but they're not actually old enough to say yes. So their yes doesn't really matter. But being really clear about what those laws are as well. And then what about meeting somebody online? So let's talk about that a little bit. Is that an okay person to start a relationship with? What do you all think? What do you think? Is it okay to meet someone online? Not unless you meet in person also. Yeah, there should be some guidelines. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe, but very slowly. Yes, yes, yes. And I believe we talked about this last week too, but when we looked at the boundaries around public and private and types of relationships, I put people that we meet online as casual friends, that they can't be in a sexual romantic relationship with you until you meet them in person first. Like that's part of the process. So one thing is making sure they are who they say they are, but also um, making sure that you can find a time to meet in person or do a video chat so you know that the person is who they are. And there needs to be a lot of conversation. Yes, it can be okay depending on the situation, and then meeting in person with a friend, keeping distance to watch from afar. Yeah. Yeah. So you can meet in a public place and bring a friend, and the friend could be sitting at another table, just so you have somebody there to make sure they are who they say they are. And that's true for any relationship, for the most part online, is you meet in a public place first before you decide, do I want to see this person again? So just teaching the same skills that many people might already know just from observing and figuring out themselves, we can teach those steps. Not unless you understand boundaries and safety involved for yourself. Yep, it's fine. And to get to know them, meet in a public place. Yes, still need benchmarks similar to in person. Yes, exactly. And we'll talk about some of that too. Knowing the risk, and if the person starts asking for money and personal information. Yes, need to have the self-esteem to be able to say no also. Yeah, there's so many skills and not and so much knowledge that's needed to be able to manage this safely as well. Yes. So yes, it is possible, but yeah, lots of conversations and lots of important content and skills need to be addressed as well. And then the next step is getting to know someone, and we'll jump into the online piece next. But there's different ways of getting to know people too. So there's flirting, and then there's email or texting each other. There's talking on the phone, asking them to join you in a group activity, or asking them out on a date. So we'll talk about each of these a little bit, and then we'll talk about the online piece. So flirting, a lot of people with disabilities tell me that they like the idea of flirting, but they often feel like either they're not understanding that the person's flirting, it's very subtle, or they're flirting with someone and the person doesn't understand it, or they're not flirting with someone and they think they're, so many people have told me they like to be more direct about this rather than these sort of winking and smiling and things like that. So you can be really direct, and you can say certain things and do certain things, like, I'm really glad you're here and I'd like to spend more time with you. But that's also what you could say to a friend. So again, it's a little confusing, but people say they like to be more direct. Like, I would really like to be in I'd like us to be partners or in a couple or sexual romantic relationship, being much more direct. So there isn't any of that missing of cues. But if you like to flirt, there's nothing wrong with flirting, but we want to make sure that it's working. And this is similar with healthy boundaries, where we talked about last week. We want to make sure that we can read the body language. If we're flirting with someone, if we wink at them or we smile or we say something, how are they responding to it? And we're not always right in reading body language, but if somebody giggles or does it back or maybe leans forward a little bit, that's giving a message that they're enjoying the flirting. If they tell you to stop, or they run out of the room, or they look down, you want to stop. Even though the looking down could be kind of shy and a little embarrassed, you still don't want to keep going with it unless you're getting some positive back. So we want to talk about that with people around how do you flirt and how do you know it's not working? Because the behaviors that we use to flirt are also the behaviors that someone could consider sexually harassing. So they're the same behaviors. It's really about whether the person wants it. So you have to pay attention. Are they acting like they are enjoying this and they want to flirt? And then if you're nervous, people talk about practicing in front of the mirror or writing a letter or something instead. So there's other ways if you're feeling really nervous about it. And then flirting and getting to know people online, we want to talk about that as well. And again, it's a lot of those boundaries that you talked about already, but that is a way we get to know people, is to talk online, chat online about different things. But we'll get into more of the safety. So let's talk about technology. So we'll move into online. So there's lots of ways to meet people in person, but let's talk about meeting people online. So I'm not sure how old everyone is here, but when I was growing up, or many of you were growing up, we had face-to-face, we could call people, we could write letters. That was it, right? And now there's so many ways to connect. So there's texting, email, Snapchat, post on social media, online chat rooms, video chats. There's so many ways to communicate and meet people now. And sometimes what makes it difficult about talking about it is that we haven't used a lot of these things as well, like dating apps or something like that. So that can be a challenge, just not knowing enough about the technology itself. So there's so many ways to meet people. So what are some positives to this social media and technology and internet and phones? What are some of the positives? If you could put those in the chat, like what's good about this? Because we don't want to forget those too. So what's good about technology as far as meeting people or being in relationships? Easy to connect from the comfort of your home. Yes. Yeah. People can feel isolated. This is a way to connect. Helps to bridge shyness. Finding the people with common interests. So you can join some kind of a group or an affinity group or different things that have a common interest. Yep. Connecting with new people from different places. Yeah. Helps for those with verbal difficulties too. Right. A little less intimidating, yeah, than face to face. Allows you to pace yourself and how the relationship progresses, can meet people that you wouldn't just meet in your daily life circles. Yeah, builds community. It's nice to be able to get to know somebody through writing before you meet them. There's a record of who and what was discussed for safety. Okay, yeah, so you've got that there as well. It's sort of documentation and helps us develop social skills. So many positives. And many people, this is their only outlet or connection to other people. So it has a lot of positives. And then I know you all mentioned some of the negatives, but what are some of the negatives that you see involving technology and meeting people and dating and that kind of thing? What are some of the negatives? Just so we can look at all of them. So what are some of the, maybe the fears? Fake profiles and information. Yes. Are they who they say they are? Lack of socializing. So, right, you just communicate texting and you don't actually talk to people. Less inhibitive, right? So we might feel sort of free to like say whatever we want, and that could be a negative thing, or post something or send a picture or something like that. The process moves so fast, so that can be a downside. Cyberbullying, catfishing, financial scams, ghosting. Yeah, there's a lot, right? There's a lot of positives and then a lot of negatives. Spontaneous reactions, so people that just react, we might just, rather than take a minute and think about things. Yeah, great. Yeah, so let's talk about ways to reduce the risks online. And I know many of you already put some ideas in around when we said, is it okay to meet people online? But here are some others to think about too. And I think we want a rejection experience. Sure. Yeah. I think lots of I think we want to give a message that there are a lot of positives to technology. They can really make you feel connected, and you listed all of those. We don't want to forget those. But sometimes we're worried, right? And people were saying that, like, I want to encourage freedom and self-determination, but it's scary. And so we want to make sure that we are balanced in our talking about it. And if we're really, really anxious about it, that we don't bring that to the conversation, because people can feel it. When you're anxious, people feel it, and they're not going to want to talk to us. So we want to just try to be calm. And we said this a couple weeks ago, but respond, don't react. And so how can we do that around online safety? And a lot of it is we want to be able to have these conversations so that we can go far with these conversations. But if we're reactive, people aren't going to want to talk to us about it. So I think the message we want to give is there's lots of ways to meet people in person, online, and not everybody online is going to hurt you. And most aren't, but it's always good to know how to stay safe. So that's a balanced kind of message, right? It's sort of like when we talk about fire safety. We don't want to go, there could be a fire in the house, and so we have to be worried. We got to be prepared. And, we'll say, sometimes things catch on fire and we want to be prepared. It probably won't happen to us in our home, but we always want to be prepared for if it did happen, right? So we're balanced in how we're talking about it. So I think the first thing, and this was mentioned in the chat, is to not give out personal information about where you live when you're chatting with someone online. So address, even posting pictures with, the park next to your house, or, things that could be indicators of where you live. So we don't want to share that. We also don't want to share bank information ever. And this is hard. And this is not just people with disabilities. Lots of people are getting scammed. And I think we have to talk about it, because getting scammed is really embarrassing. You kind of feel like you should have known. And we tend to really, we kind of blame the victim of people who are scammed. And I think we want to, be empathetic to the fact that, you know, it's hard. They're very skilled. They're very skilled at scamming people. And so we don't want people not to talk about it, because it's, again, if we don't talk about it and say, oh my gosh, I got scammed, people don't share it. There's sort of a shame with it. So we really want to talk about these things and to not feel bad about ourselves for getting tricked. We are victims of a crime when that happens. And we don't do that when somebody holds a gun to our head or something like that. We try not to blame victims. So I think that's true with scamming. And then remember that sometimes people online are not always being truthful about who they are. And how do you know for sure? And people talked about meeting in person and that kind of thing. You can also ask to do a video call, so they really are there when you do a FaceTime with them. The other thing you can do is if you're texting someone or something like that, you can say, send me a picture of you with your finger on your nose, or something that's immediate. And then they send it, and you know that it's really them, right? So you can do little things to make sure they are who they say they are. There's also more technology savvy things like a reverse image search, as well as a way to see, are there pictures is this picture in lots of different places versus just on this person's profile and on their Facebook page. So there's ways to do more tech savvy kinds of things, but those other ones are really helpful in figuring out, are they who they say they are? And then, like you all mentioned, if you want to set up a place to meet this person face to face, make sure it's in a public place and not a private place. Many stories about people inviting someone over and being sexually assaulted. And they just wanted them to come over so they could play cards. And so we really want to do what most people do when they meet people online, is go to a public place to meet. And again, like people said, bring somebody with you. Why not? They could either meet the person or they could sit at another table. But you want to be sure that you have safety when we first meet people. as well. I've used to train with firefighters, paramedics back in high school with the Groton Fire Explorers. It's a program for young adults by the Groton Fire Department to prepare them for a career. Oh, great. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm sure the fire safety made you think of that. So that's cool that you do that as well. And the same kind of thing, if you're working in a fire department, we want to be calming and not reacting, right? We want to try to be calm about some of the dangers in the world. Yes, thank you for that. The other area that we want to be careful about is, oh, not anymore. Okay, yeah, that's great. Is what are we posting and not posting too? Oh, and just actually to back up a second, because I don't know if it's on the slide, but the other thing, and people talked about money. What's really recommended is that we teach people to not send money or accept money online, no matter what, and make it like a hard, fast rule. Because there's other ways for people to get you money, but to not accept money. And if someone asks for, say, oh, I want to send you money for your birthday, what's your bank account information? We want to be sure that people say, nope, I don't accept money online. Because if we set that boundary, if somebody is a scammer, they will go away because they're not going to get anywhere. So it's a really good tool for seeing if your boundary is going to be respected. And it's a good tool, even if they're not a scammer and they start pushing you, that's a sign that someone's not respecting your boundaries. But it's a really good way and that's for all of us, to not send money to others or accept money online, even if they say that they're your boyfriend or whatever. And it's really hard because sometimes this happens after years of somebody being your boyfriend online and they say, hey, I want to send you money, and you trust them. It's been so long. So it may not happen right away. It could happen down the road too. So that's something that's really helpful in determining whether this is a safe, healthy relationship or not online too. Are they respecting your boundaries? And then posting online is the other thing of sort of around boundaries is, we like to post pictures of ourselves online, and it can be really fun. We also like to put in comments and things, but everything that's online is considered public. Even though people have privacy settings, it's still public. So once we put it out online, it's public. And even Snapchat, where you just show a picture, it only lasts for 30 seconds. They can take a picture of your picture. So, or if you sext someone, once it's out there, it's in the public. So we only want to send things that are public versus things that are private. So public photos are being with friends at a park, visiting your cousin in Virginia, having Thanksgiving with your family, a picture of you and your partner. Private things would be things that you do in private. So being naked, being sexual with someone, changing your clothes, going to the bathroom or bathing. So these would be other things that we don't want to put out there. And you can use this activity around, what's okay and not okay as well. Sorry, I'm just going to pop to this. So here are some examples of public and private. Went to my cousin, so this is posting this. Went to my cousin's wedding last weekend. Yeah, and some people don't want to share that, and that's fine, but it would be okay if someone wanted to. And never share your social security number with anyone. That is absolutely true. I kissed my sweetheart for hours on Saturday. It's what we do in private. And so we wouldn't post it. I miss my friends from high school. Sure. Even photos with children should be considered private unless parents give permission and child gives permission if they can. Yeah, and even if we take a picture with a friend, to always ask, is it okay if I post this? Yeah. And I think that's something we're getting better at. I think in the beginning we were taking all these pictures and posting things, and now we're getting more permission as well. So yes. Yeah, and I know a lot of parents are like, I don't want to post pictures of my kids because I want that to be kind of private. too. So lots of different examples of how you can post or pictures you can post on online or not. And you can use these to talk about it. What's okay, what's not okay. I'm just going to go back to the sexting conversation here. So this comes up a lot too, like people, young people in particular, but not just young people. When they're in a relationship, they may send sexual pictures of themselves to their partner. And I think what we want to teach around online safety is this is something that people do once they've established a relationship and they've decided that's part of their relationship. So if we're just meeting somebody online, we don't know them. They're considered a casual friend. So we wouldn't be sending pictures of our body parts or things like that. So especially in the beginning. And what I tell people is online, they are a casual friend. And so we're just going to talk about public things. So public topics, public, just like posting on social media. So if somebody asks you and you've never met them in person, you haven't established that you're in a relationship, you don't want to send anything. I also know that it can also cause a lot of problems, even if you are in a relationship with someone. So you send a picture and now they have it and you break up a month later. They now have a picture of you. So it's something that we always want to really think through. Um, and if somebody's sending pictures, I think that we want to figure out what's underneath that. Why are you sending this person a picture of you naked? And oftentimes it's to meet people and just thinking that this will help me meet a partner. So we want to teach the skills to meeting people so that you don't have to use things like sending naked pictures of yourself to get people to notice you. You can reach out and talk with people. So that's something we want to really talk about. And the other thing is if somebody sends you a picture of their sexual parts and they're underage and you send it to someone else, it's considered distributing child pornography. So there's a lot of downsides to sexting. But I also want to be sure that we don't just say to someone, don't do that, because sometimes people will work around us. And so we want to have these conversations. And if we're parents, give our values around it as well. But we want to keep the door open so we can have conversations. So if your child sends something and now the person there's something called sextortion where they're saying to you, send me money or I'll show everyone this picture you sent me. We want people to be able to come to us and talk to us like about this kind of thing. And if we say, don't ever do that, and then the person does it, then they feel like they can't come back to us because we've told them not to. So they're left with a problem, an online issue, and they don't have anyone to talk to. So we really want to keep that open. And we can talk about those situations too. If you send pictures of yourself, sometimes people come back and say, give me money for that. Or they show it to lots of people and you're really embarrassed. So there's a lot of downsides to sexting. All right. And then just checking time. Okay, good. So I think one thing is we want to really be sure that we're online and we're behaving, in a way that makes sense. So we're being more public and posting certain comments and things because it shows that we're grown up and we understand kind of the social norms around internet safety and being on the internet. So we want to show that we're growing up and we're being responsible when we're online and we're posting things that are okay to post. But one thing you can also ask yourself is these last three questions. Would I want this post or text to end up in the newspaper of the town I live in? And if the answer is no, then you probably don't want to put it online. So we want to ask those questions. Would I want my parents or my grandparents to see this post? And lastly, would I want my future boss to see this photo? So it's just a good way to think like, ooh, maybe I'll do this, and then to just test those out. Because if you don't want it to be in the newspaper or your parents or a boss to see it or your grandparent, then you don't want to post it because that's probably because it's private. So that's just another little tool for talking about online safety. Any other thoughts or questions right now about online or issues that you're facing that you're struggling with? I'll just keep talking and then we'll see if anything comes in the chat.
Catherine, I just want to jump in. I'm sure other people are getting the same text messages that are supposedly coming from valid sources such as uh, the Registry of Motor Vehicles or other places that say you have a parking ticket or something and you're going to lose your license. Those are really hard to discern which is real and which is not, which is why I think it's important to talk a little bit about how to create scripting and guides to support our students and children and clients around those kinds of texts that seem really valid.
Yeah, absolutely. It's scary. Or, someone's got your identity, right? Like that's scary. And so we get panicky and we do things. So anytime we can talk about those things, like the motor vehicle, the bank, there was a scam around here. My son ended up clicking on something, and it was a bank, and they just somehow got all of our phone numbers, local numbers, and just sent these text messages. And so it's what happens is if it's not your bank, you ignore it. And then if you respond, they know it's your bank. And my son almost lost a bunch of money, and he called me and we took all his money out of his account. But it looks so legitimate. But the more we can talk about these examples, then we go, oh, once we knew that was a scam, now anytime I see it, I just delete it. So the more we talk about it, and even going to the bank, because they'll usually have something that says, or the motor vehicle, like, let's check this first. Um, yeah, so it's scary, and sometimes people get scammed too. And they play on your fears as well. So maybe something to teach is really, when in doubt, come and talk to me, and we'll try to figure out if this is real or not together. And I think one of the things too with scams is they'll say, like, don't tell anybody that we're talking about this. And that's a red flag too. Um, because that's why wouldn't you? And they say things like, well, don't tell anyone because I don't want the scammers to find out. So if you text someone else, they might be able to know, and you get really scared and you just do what the person tells you to do. So we want to prevent and then also support after it happens because the person's a victim of a crime. All right, so we're going to move kind of out of online and just talk a little bit more about the steps and then see what kind of questions you might have. So not only online, but when we're texting or talking and getting to know someone, we want to talk about public topics. So we don't want to start off with really private things. We're working into that. So it might be a casual friend first, then they become your friend. And then you might start talking about more private things in a private place. But when we're first meeting people, we want to keep it public. How was your day? What's your favorite music? Right? Things you can talk to anybody about. We also talked about this last week, I believe, around how often can you call or text as well. So like it was mentioned, somebody said, said that their son wants to meet somebody fast. And so they may send a text to someone and the person doesn't respond, and they want this to happen fast. And so then they send another, and then they send another, and then they send another. And so, that can be really harassing too. So our excitement, we want to give some rules around it. Like, talk to me if you're excited, or write in a journal if you're excited about this person. But once you text them, you want to just wait 24 hours, wait till the next day. If you don't hear from them then, you can text them another time, and then you wait until you hear back from them. And if they don't after 2 attempts, you need to stop. And so some of those rules can be helpful in some of these on or tech or electronic relationships as well. And having a conversation about time that you are, it's okay to text and call and things like that are important in our relationships too. And then asking someone out, and you could ask someone to go out to a group activity, which is another way to get to meet someone too. So you're with a lot of people and this person, where when you look at Love on the Spectrum or some of those shows, it's so, they're on a date. One's got the suit on, one's all dressed up. There's a lot of pressure on a date. And so being part of a group and with lots of people around lightens things a little and helps you get to know the person without that pressure and anxiety of a date. So thinking about ways that you can have a group activity. And then we can ask people out on a date as well. And I believe we talked about this. This is what happens if you do a series, is you forget all the things you might have talked about. But really focusing on where are you going to go? How are you going to get there? Things like that. But also who's going to pay is another piece about asking somebody out on a date as well. All right, so let me open. I've got a few scenarios that you can use, but I also want to open it up for anyone that might have a question. And I'm going to put my email in the chat too, because someone wanted to meet with me after, and the Zoom will be closed. So just email me and I'll respond to you then. So for anybody, not just the person that said, can we talk afterwards? So email me and we can set up a time to talk. So let's talk about this. A 23-year-old young woman wants to post a topless picture of herself to get a boyfriend on Instagram. What advice do you have for her? So you can talk with your child or someone you're supporting, or just think about this yourself. What advice would I give this person? And use these scenarios as ways to talk about it as well. And it's easier to have a scenario that's away from you and not about your life and your relationships to talk about. And then you're learning through that as well. So we might say things like, well, I would say that anything on Instagram should be public. Any pictures or comments are public things, which are things like, going to the mall or going to a wedding. Those are public things, where having no shirt on is a private thing. That's something we do in private. So my recommendation isn't to post it. So that's how you can assess the learning from, previous conversations and things, and then using scenarios to talk about it. Another one, a 24-year-old male asks his partner to text him sexy pictures. What advice do you have for this person? So you could think about what you would say, and if you use it with somebody you're supporting or someone in your home, or what ideas do they have around this? And you can fill in some of the blanks too. So here are just some scenarios to use as another teaching tool. All right, meet someone online and plan to meet them face to face. What advice would you give them? So again, we can say things like face to face in a public place. Maybe you could bring someone, right? So we can use these as scenarios to talk about all the content that we've really been talking about already around online safety in particular. All right, so let me see I think we've got a few minutes left here. I have a couple of videos to show you, which are just some more content. It's not so much about online, but it's more about relationships and sexual feelings. And then there's also one on consent, but I wanted to make sure we had time for some questions before I showed you these videos. But they're another tool you can use for talking about relationships. So I will start this one, and I'm just going to double check that the sound is on. I did set it, but I just want to be sure. Okay.
And Katherine, we do have one question
Oh,
from
great.
one of our professionals, Brad.
Okay. Yeah. Is in the chat. Is that right?
So this concept may be a little too complex to discuss, but can we talk about interoception and how this can complicate relationships and sexuality? And the word is really about understanding your body's internal senses. So I guess Brad teasing out between what your body's feeling and how you can, um, navigate that and regulate that, your maybe impulses and urges.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm sorry, I didn't see the text. Somehow I got a private text, and so I mean, chat. So I lost all these questions. Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert on interoception, and maybe other people have ideas around how you could teach some of that. But yeah, I know it's sort of a new term that's I mean, it's not new, but it's new to the general public now around how do we teach some of these skills. And so I'd like bring that out to all of you around what are some things you do to teach around like awareness of your body and when you're feeling scared. And it would be um, a good thing for like if I'm talking to somebody online and my heart starts to beat faster or I feel kind of sick to my stomach or that's a sign as well. So I don't know if that's what you mean around safety or if you're talking more about just noticing that your anxiety might be high, so it's hard to meet people. I'm not sure
Feel
exactly
free to
what.
unmute yourself, Brad. Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Catherine. And this may be a little, autism kind of focused, but I
Yeah.
think for us, there are sometimes these mismatches in how someone's feeling. And is that okay? Is that typical? And I think specifically around, physical interaction and intimacy, and there can be that disconnect of this is painful or and again, how just helping someone kind of navigate that of that's okay or that's not okay.
Yeah.
And I think too, for us being open that, in the neurodiverse population, there are maybe different degrees of physical intimacy. And so for some people, like a hug and a kiss may be the extent of it, and that's okay.
Mhm.
But thank you. Yeah, a little bit of a complex topic, but really
Yeah.
important, I think, for our individuals to have that bodily autonomy and to be able
Yes.
to accurately interpret those feelings and respond accordingly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So having a conversation about their bodies and how and that it's they get to decide who touches them and how they're touched and that they're really in control of that as well. And I know, some autistic individuals will say it's I want to be in a relationship with someone who's autistic. It's just easier. We communicate in a way, we understand that we're going to have different kinds of needs, and others just don't quite understand that as well. So yeah, and we might also be feeling like, oh, I want to date someone who doesn't have a disability, and that's okay too. But I do know that a lot of people feel like relationships are hard, and that sometimes it's easier if you're autistic to be with someone else who's autistic as well.
And Catherine, just really quickly, Brad, talks about the ASD population. I shared your link, Brad, to First Place, Arizona. But also we want to remember that this conversation is for all levels of disabilities and all individuals on that broad spectrum. And we know that some times social stories are more relevant. I love that um, Sandra shared that she uses DBT and mindfulness and self-awareness, which I'm really big on. I'm a mindfulness-based stress reduction teacher. So we want to remember that this dialogue can expand to everyone. And again, Catherine and I are available. And if there's other people here that want to repost their contact information, if you want people to reach out to you, we built a community today. So Catherine, I'll be quiet because I know we've got a great video to share.
Yes, no problem. No, that's great. I'm going to put my email in here into the full group here. Yes, great. And somebody said sometimes the biggest barrier are the staff and families. Yep. Yes, that is, I feel like people with disabilities want to talk about this. They're asking for it. They want to be they want to have a full life, and that staff and families can be very, very scared. And, I get it because the statistics around sexual abuse are really high. And so again, it's that balance, right? Of um, How do we work with families? And usually what I do is talk more about with families, what worries you about your child dating or being online, or let's talk about some of those things, and then get some coaching around, well, how do you talk about it to hopefully prevent bad things from happening, but also to be there if bad things happen too. So we want to be part of their lives and the conversation too. So what worries you about that is one of the first things, because I want to know what's underneath it. I'm worried they're going to get abused. Absolutely, we should worry about that. So let's talk about how we can talk about ways to prevent that from happening. Great. All right. So yeah, lots around family. I mean, it's complicated. Um, but I think the piece around self-advocates also say if you, oh gosh, time is flying. These videos are on the resource list that are part of the handouts for this. So you can take a look at these, but this one's on sexual feelings and relationships. And the second one is on consent and this idea around saying no, which somebody mentioned in the chat as well. Like, how do we say no? And what gets in the way of saying no? Because what happens is we don't say no because we don't want to hurt people's feelings or hurt others, but then we're not taking care of ourselves. So how do we take care of ourselves? Think about what we want, speak up for that, and stick with it, stick with our boundaries too. So I'm not going to show this because I know, Anne, you need to wrap up, but I just wanted to say to all of you just quickly, oops, what's one thing you can do to support those your children or the people you're working with? Just one thing you can do to help people meet people in a safe and healthy way, just to kind of wrap it up. And then Anne, sorry, I'm not giving you much time. Yeah. Anybody, a quick something you might do to support? Let them feel comfortable asking questions and give guidance, not orders. Great. Talk and listen, be open-minded to answering questions. Help prep for these interactions. Yeah, yeah, great. And I'll pass it to you, Anne. Thank you everyone for being here. And oh, I realize I'm not sharing my screen. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you,
Yes.
everybody. We just built an amazing community talking about a very sensitive but really important topic. I just want to repost a video that I feel is really relevant by another New Hampshire person, Catherine, Sam Habib from Concord, New Hampshire. He's an advocate with a disability. He and his dad produced two movies, but the one that I'm referring to is My Disability Roadmap. And he talks with an amazing another person with a disability and an advocate, Keith Jones, about relationships. And this is front and center for Sam. And we want to know, we want everyone to remember that this is a front and center topic, and we can't push it under the carpet. We really need to bring it to the forefront. And Elevatus training is such an amazing resource. Catherine, if you could put in the chat how people can subscribe to her newsletter. There's so much information. Every time I get it, I try to put half an hour so I can chip away. Janine, I think we'll go to the next. Oh, Catherine, I think you have to share the slide. Sorry about that. Anyway, we're past the hour. So what we want to say is thank you so much. We're available for consultations, Catherine and I, and also we want to just let you know that you can reach out to us anytime. If you take your camera, you can click on the QR code to find out how to connect with our team at Perkins Transition Center. Yes, Madeline, thank you. I'm glad you're getting it. I love Laura puts books in her kids' rooms and leaves them there. That's good. That's really important. Having things out, resources. A little sneaky, but the best way to do it. I did the same thing as a parent. Everyone, have a really beautiful day. Thanks for joining us. And please keep an eye on our transition talks, which will start in September, October. Catherine, thank you so much. We'll see you on the other side. Bye, everybody.